I'm now going to pass you over to our principal, Sir Jim McDonald. And he's going to give you a talk, and then you'll be able to ask him questions. Okay, over to you.
Thank you very much. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. I'm just looking at that photograph. This is a different grey suit. This is a different blue shirt. But clearly I don't have much variety in my dress code. What he has more of than I have is more hair, because that photograph was taken about 3 or 4 years ago. Anyway, I keep that long in my legs. It's a bit like, who's the guy who used to keep the painting in the attic? I think I've got it in reverse, that photograph stays perfect. I just aged terribly. Anyway, it's great to see you, and many congratulations to Malcolm and Rebecca and the team for making sure that we get such great participation in this engagement. From the class reps, I don't need to tell you, but I will tell you, your role in representing your fellow students in your various classes and programs is a fundamental part of the student experience. And I want to say a big thanks on behalf of the University Administration for your service in doing these things, because it's essential that we make sure that your experience is everything that it should be, and it's also essential that we take your assertions, hopefully well informed and articulately presented assertions about how we can improve the education experience, things about the environment in which you're being taught, means by which we support your overall activities in the Strathclyde. We need to hear that, and we certainly hear it at the departmental level, the school level, the faculty level. But I take, and I know Malcolm and Rebecca would confirm, I take my case for the students very seriously. In fact, Malcolm and I and the team tend to meet probably on a monthly basis. And it's usually an agenda set by Malcolm, about as long as your arm, and that is good. The vice principal, I should say, join me if you know Kenny Miller at the back there, is our vice principal. Kenny and I meet with Malcolm on a regular basis to discuss a few things. I want to just give you a general update, give you a sense from my perspective of what's going on at Strathclyde. That's your most important point of reference. But I think it might be interesting just to broaden out and give you some context of what's going on in the sector at large. The past 2 years have been challenging, to use a euphemism, for the sector, and that's in no small part down to the fact that we have been facing public sector funding challenges. But Strathclyde has remained an investing institution. That's been very important for us. Some reactions, I don't mean just in the university sector, but some reactions under these conditions as we pull the batten or the hatches down and wait for the wave to pass, and you stop investing. Well, Strathclyde's done quite the opposite. We've made some very significant decisions as to how we've reshaped the university. There's been some reorganisation. I'm very happy to talk to you about that. There have been some significant changes in all of the faculties and all of the administrative services of the university. Particular focus, which I'm very proud of because of the successful delivery, has been the reshaping of humanities and social sciences, which is a very important part of the institution. In fact, it's the largest faculty in terms of the student population there. And we've been investing in new staff, you will know, and I'll talk to you about some of the immediate logistical challenges that we've had. But our colleagues from Jordan Hill, the staff, students and support staff, are now here on the John Anderson campus. And whilst we've got some teething problems, some snagging problems from a practical point of view, which we're dealing with, it's been a fantastically successful move, and I have to say a lot of credit to the Dean of Haas, the staff, the students in Haas, including those in education. You've been patient with the move. You've helped us understand some of the challenges that we need to take care of, and you're also helping make sure that we accelerate the activities. But I also want to take the opportunity to say a big thank you to our support staff, the people in the Estates Department, those in finance, those in IT, who have been working their socks off to make sure that transition into that new space has been as successful as possible. And again, without giving you too many historical references, it's been the biggest logistics challenge of the university's existence. And as to our existence, we will celebrate in 2014. Now, hopefully the majority of you will be still at Strathclyde in 2014. I don't mean just before 8:15 tonight, by the way. But we will have had our university charter for 50 years in 2014. We've got a royal charter as a technological university in 1964. I joined the university as an undergraduate in 1974. I was very young, actually, very gifted 6-year-old at that time, primary school. But the institution itself and the history of your place should be important to you. It goes all the way back to 1796. Folk sometimes forget that about Strathclyde. Well, seems perhaps one of your universities. Well, you know, well, we're
Hey, can you help me out? I'm trapped in all this bad odour.
Not intentional.
I think Malcolm felt a sweet. Malcolm, that was less than subtle. Much appreciated. I'm going to tell you the story anyway. So, whilst we've had a charter since 1964, we've actually been an institution since the Scottish Enlightenment period. So please be proud of that. We were established in 1796 by a man called John Anderson. And there's a very small painting of him in one of the rooms up there, and it seems like we probably have to have a more explicit recognition of Professor Anderson around the campus. People recognise their proud heritage. He was a physicist, or as they called him in those days, a natural philosopher. I've got a name for physicists as well, but I'll not share that with you just now. Field electrical engineer normally comes to mind. But he established, being a shine retiring man, Anderson's Institution. He had been a professor at Glasgow University, and he'd run into the university administrators who weren't quite giving him all the support they felt it was due. So in his will, he left money to have this place established. So you should be very proud of your institution. I know I am, and I'm proud, most importantly, of our best product, and that's that our students, those that graduate, be it in social sciences, humanities, engineering, science, business, and his legacy lives on. And he talked about a place that was all about useful learning. And he is making, I think, a very important modern interpretation of what that means. And for you, it's about gathering new knowledge. It's about our staff helping impart that to you. More importantly these days, working with you in an education contract so that we make sure that your experience is fulsome and you get every chance to influence and take advantage of your opportunity to shape your educational experience. But of course what it means these days is pathways to employment and pathways to the professions, and making sure that we do everything we possibly can as a university to use our exemplary relationships with public sector agencies, with business, with industry, to try and increase our statistics. So statistics are good. Our EPI, Education Performance Index, is 93%, and that's good. That puts us well up there in the rankings, but I want it to be even better than that. And Vina O'Halloran, who's our Director of Student Experience and Enhancement Services, has recently taken on new staff to help support that. So again, I would always encourage you to recognise that the education experience itself has value in and of itself, but we need to remember the end point here is for you to graduate successfully, complete having had a great experience, and find your pathway thereafter, whether that's staying on at university to do postgraduate work or finding your way into work in whatever professional pathway that you seek. And please, we can maybe say something more about that in Q&A if need be, but make sure that you use C's as a gateway into getting that careers advice. We have an exemplary careers advisory group. We're strengthening it further, and we recognise that the economy out there is a wee bit chillier than it's been for a long time. But our graduate fair activities these days is getting the sort of participation from employers back to 2008 levels. Now that is really encouraging. That means that we're starting to see the employment building. Scottish overall employment statistics are in professional levels is pretty good. Youth employment is another situation altogether. I was with a woman called Angela Constance only yesterday, who's the Youth Employment Minister for the Scottish Government, and she's got a big task in her hand to help the Scottish Government and its partners in industry and business try and improve things. Scottish youth unemployment statistics are running around 27% just now, which is worse than the UK average. But still, places like Strathclyde, and we need to concentrate on you, our students, still has very good statistics, and we'll do whatever we can to help you ultimately conclude your degree programmes here, whether undergraduate or indeed postgraduate, and make sure that you challenge us back, because that communications thing is what it's all about. A couple of statistics I want to share with you, and then I would appreciate you're telling me what are your concerns, what are your observations, any issues you want me to either. I will try and respond directly to today, but if I can't do that, I'll take them away and make sure that you Malcolm, Rebecca and others that I'll come back to with a response in due course. But again, it's important for us to remember context. It's important that you focus in on your programme, whether it's electrical engineering, whether it's English and history, or whether it's physics or natural philosophy, and you concentrate on that in your community. But just for today, let's broaden out some of your contextual references. So this year, will continue to be challenging for us and the rest of the sector financially. Strathclyde's done rather well. For example, the Sunday Times Good University Guide for 2014. We've moved up in the UK 12 places to position 24 in the UK. That's good. That makes us hungry for more progress, but that was a great leap. So we moved up 12 places to 24. Our national student survey, critically important, and that's a very important barometer for us to get your feedback. And I guess, Ms. Rebecca, that's going to be something you're going to be talking about on your programme today.
Yeah, in the afternoon when the assessment.
So, I mean, I would encourage it and I would welcome your participation. It happens usually at the later years, but we're now introducing an opportunity for every year for you to start feeling you more formal, additional formal channels for us to get your feedback. But this year, our overall satisfaction rate that was informed to us by the NSS was up 2 points to 89, and that's 4 points above the sector average. Now that was encouraging for us because, as you know, there's been quite a lot of churn in the system, reorganisations, and some of the unsettling experience of moving literally physically from one campus to another, or at least preparing for it. We'll be having some of that at the start of this academic year. But your understanding and your recognition of the positivity that we take from that and the signalling that we take from that means that we hope you will take that opportunity in a mature way and let us know exactly how you feel. We'd like to know outside the NSS as well. You use your channels and your student staff advisory meetings in your departments. But for me, that was very encouraging. And all our institutional scores and the scores of individual questions have improved. Again, a great uplift in our overall response. And it's been better than only by 4 of the Russell Group universities. That's Oxford, Cambridge, Exeter and Sheffield. And we outperformed 16 of the Russell Group. Not that competitive with these things. I want to get these statistics from. Again, I want you to be as ambitious for yourself and for your courses and for your institution as I am. We've been trying to use technology to try and help your engagement here be a lot smoother. I mean, this year we'll be using the online registration system. I think around 17,000 have used it this year.
17,000 up 17%. We want to expand the use of our online systems and online engagement to capture more and more students, to speed up the whole process for you, so you can focus through the induction week on other activities rather than all these kind of back office bureaucratic things that we need you to do.
Right.
So we've registered, over 17,000 of you have registered, and we're still chasing down a few who haven't, but there's quite a lot of engagement going on and support being provided to encourage you to do so. So well done everybody for using our systems. Likewise, we're about to next month launch an induction survey. So we do want everybody to feed back what it was like for you, because we want to continue improving it. And after all, we're old and middle-aged, not like Jim, of course. We're all old and middle-aged, and we look at these things differently. We might think we've done something really snazzy and exciting, and you might think it's deadly boring. So do feel free to feed back in comments, especially when you do these surveys. It's really important.
My chief IT advisor is my 50-year-old son who's miles ahead of me in these things. But again, the use of technology is fundamental in this one. But the infrastructure is important. Let me give you some statistics and then let me talk to 2 major estates issues. Well, I'm delighted to say that over 50% of our teaching estate, teaching rooms, the lecture theatres, were refurbished this year. That's 105 teaching rooms. That's a big undertaking on our part, and we intend to continue to expend serious resource on the teaching resources, the IT infrastructure. The library spend has been good. There's a major programme coming up. In the Sunday Times survey, there was a wee face with a downturns rather than a smiley face. There was a wee unhappy face, but it was contextualised by our current university student president, who recognised there was a very significant investment programme that's actually in train. I mean, I'm sure you've all been up there already. I think these new group working areas and the new space that we've invested in is really tremendous. It makes the library of ever more welcoming and useful place. And our plans over the next year or two, we're getting in new cafeteria functions, revised opening hours, and investing in further infrastructure will help you. I was going to say when it comes to the ceramic time, I'm sure you're putting in at least an extra 20 hours study time every year. Rather every year, yeah, that's not every week. No, I can't start with every year. Every week will be helpful, but that place is a hub for your learning, and having it literally in the heart of the university campus is very important. Two things I'll refer to, because I'd like to get some feedback from you in Q&A. We had a bit of a blow in the campus in, Hugh, was it February? When we had the James Weir fire. But by the way, of interest, how many of you are first year representatives? How many of you are absolutely new to the system? Yeah? You'll be aware of it. Those who have been here for a while will know that that was just a major incident. You know, it's an overall insurance liability of over £20 million. You know, I was in here that evening. I was actually in this room hosting a Robertson Trust Scholars induction night, and left here at 7:30 around with my Chief Operating Officer Hugh Hall, who will just identify himself. The old terminology for Hugh would be University Secretary, but we much prefer the Chief Operating Officer. Hugh was doing a bit of work as well. I went into his office just before I left, and I looked over his shoulder through the window up onto the Montrose Street, and noticed 2 fire engines. And we said to each other, we'd had a spate of false alarms in the previous couple of months. It's another one of those false alarms. Then in the space of 10 minutes, 2 fire engines became 4, became 7, became 10, and that was a long night for us. There was very, very serious fire on the 3rd floor of the James Weir, which meant the smoke damage and the fire damage all went up from there. And when the fire, very courageous and very effective fire men and women started to spew water into the building, all the water came down the way from the 3rd and 2nd ground floor. So massive damage. What I will say, and I've said it publicly before, the response of the students to that was outstanding. In the space of about a week, after the major blow we had to the disruption of teaching space, lab space, tutorial space, the students were very patient with us, mainly because the staff and the administrative staff made sure the communications were good, and we worked together to get to a solution. Now, we're still not back in that building entirely. In fact, it won't be until later this year, start of the next academic year. At the end of this academic session, that will be open for business. But what we will have then is a building that's probably been accelerated in its development. And to the students, and through Malcolm, as I've done before, a big thank you for the students' participation in that one. And we now have the engineering faculty departments that are effective, design, manufacturing, and engineering management, mechanical engineering, and chemical engineering are distributed around the campus. So other faculties are hosting some of these staff. And that's a great notion of what Strathclyde's collegiality is all about, useful learning and working together to get to solutions. Because the other big plan at this time, estates issue, was bringing our colleagues and students and staff down from Jordan Hill into the new Lord Hope building, and as it will grow into the current building. And that's been around an extra 2,500 students onto this campus, and around 500 or so staff. We had the pleasure of formally opening the Lord Hope building again about a month ago. Our Chancellor, we have the sort of ceremonial position of Chancellor in an institution such as this. It has a real charter. Our Chancellor is Lord Hope of Craighead, a lawyer. He's also Deputy President of the Supreme Court, so he's a very eminent chap. He's delighted that the building remains named after him. And he had a tour around meeting students and staff a month or so ago. Again, for you that are involved in it, and again, do feel free to talk to me about it. We've got some great new teaching space, we've got super staff accommodation, and we're settling in at the moment. You know, everyone moved down through June and July. The PGEE students were in there. We've had some issues of accommodating them. There's been the well-wanted use of Cineworld to accommodate 600 students. The feedback I'm getting from my staff is that the anecdotal contribution from the students is that, you know, this is okay. We're getting on with it. We're dealing with it, and the staff are getting on with it as well. And that's what, again, I would encourage and welcome from you, is that accommodation, because here's the point of the need to be flexible as we settle into this new way of working. But as we go forward into new academic years, that there may well be other means by which we will provide that teaching space in a way that allows us to accommodate things around campus. So these things are important, and again, what it does demonstrate, and you should be aware of this, that as an investing institution, we've probably invested in about 100 new academic staff over the past 3 years. We're about to go out to market to look for another 15 academic staff. Every year we'll be seeking hard to make budget for further academic staff, investing in accommodation. We are about a third of the way through a £350 million reinvestment in Strathclyde. We've been underinvested in the space and the teaching provision and the research spaces and the accommodation for rather long. And we've now got a major programme which has been approved, major project by project, including space that touches, well, all of this will touch the students' experience, obviously with teaching space for the various faculties. But also there's still a sports and health investment that's tabled for the programme over the next 5 years or so. And be assured that whilst the climate is tough out there, Strathclyde's finances are in good shape, they've been well managed. We use a business term, we leverage our own funding by getting further support from the Scottish Government, Scottish Enterprise, private partners. So those of you that have been here for a while, I hope you start to see major changes happening along the campus. Some of the things that you don't see, but you benefit from, like broadband communications and better IT facilities, that will continue. For those of you who have just joined us, you're going to see some major changes in the campus over the next 4 years. The big dig, as I refer to it as, down up George Street, Ingham Street. There's a combined investment of about £100 million going on down there. Over 30,000 square metres of space in what we call our Technology and Innovation Centre that all 4 faculties are engaged in. It's predominantly postgraduate research, but we're now using that as a platform. Val, you're there. We're now using that engagement with business industry to make sure that whatever initiatives, the vertically integrated projects that if you have heard about it, we'll hear about in this session. Do anyone know about vertically integrated projects? Some of you? Fantastic innovation. I'm determined to support Val and the rest of my colleagues to get this rolled out to many, many more of our students. Really exciting proposition. It's for students from first year all the way through occasionally to PhD level, work across the years, and the horizontal cut is people from humanities, science, engineering and business working together in very exciting, increasingly student-defined project areas. How society engages with technology, there are things around biomedical engineering, just exciting projects, something that really gets me interested in terms of enriching your experience, because again, you get a chance to drive forward some of these projects. And it was inspirational too from Georgia Tech in America, where we've got a good strong relationship. And what I found, Val, in the first set of VIP projects, probably within the first 6 weeks, the students were taking control of the projects in a good way, and the staff were getting so much more value from that engagement and that enrichment of the teaching and learning process. Is that fair observation?
Yeah, I think it's true to say the staff have said they've genuinely learned things from students' engagement that they've not thought about themselves, which is really brilliant.
So, I would encourage more of that, but in broader context in that sense, is we continue to make progress towards achieving a learning agreement. Malcolm, have you anything you want to say about that in general in terms of where we are in the learning agreement discussions? Or Rebecca?
It's pretty much the final draft is on its way, and it will be getting rolled out into the SSLC so that you can all see them and discuss about it. And it's mainly going to be to highlight the partnership between students and staff, whether it be the university management and the Students Association, or whether it be you and your lecturers. It's talking about how you are working in partnership to improve the learning and teaching experience at Strathclyde.
Okay. And we look forward to that. 2 other things I'm going to say, and then we'll stop. I've got till 12, so I'm happy to stay here for sufficient Q&A. But Strathclyde is now well underway again. We've recovered our original mission. We're an international technological university, which is humanities and social sciences, engineering science and business. But being an international university, we welcome, thrive and seek to build further the fact that we have an international community at this university. Our students, our staff, and our engagements for teaching research and knowledge exchange. We are really strengthening our international programs these days. The business school is particularly active, as you might expect. I mean, they have physical footprints in India, Singapore, Hong Kong. Over the past month, I was in America briefly, signing a new collaborative relationship with Stanford University, a world-class institution. The month before that, we've got a new research program going with MIT. And this week, we received senior executives, academic executives from Nanyang Technological University in Singapore, and so it grows. Our Chancellor, David Hope, over the last month was Tsinghua University, the #1 university in China. So it's about outreach, but it's also about us learning from and learning with our international students, our international staff. And that's something that I'm very keen that we make sure that our engagement with the University of the Strathclyde Students Association acts as a platform for that. And sometimes we get a wee bit two-dimensional about the international experience, and we should always welcome our overseas students and make sure that culturally and practically they are integrated. But you know what? Every student at Strathclyde, including those that live 5 minutes up the road from here, should be part of an international institution. Your engagement with the international members of your course should be enriched, and I'm sure USA takes that role really responsibly. Some of the challenges we have outside the university you'll be aware of through the UK Borders Agency. You probably read a bit about where it was, I'm trying to use a euphemism here, it can be challenging, and we recognise what the UK government is seeking to achieve, but some of the mechanisms and machinery that are in place make it very difficult for you to visit and come and join. Strathclyde is the only university, for example, in Scotland that provides free support for any student that has applied here and has not been granted access. There are some universities that will point or signpost into legal support. Strathclyde provides that support and advice freely. I think that's something we intend to continue to do. We're also trying to make through other induction processes your entry into the system as seamless and as constructive as possible. Anything else we want to add on that one, Dina?
Well, no, that we are focusing on enhancing the experience and the visa process, because we know this is very difficult and stressful for international students. So we have sessions where we have one-to-one support, and we have drop-in sessions. So again, come to the advice place on the ground floor of Milcans if you have any queries about this, and we'll do everything we can to help you through the process.
The last thing I want to talk about, and then the viewers feel free to pose any questions, is that part of our founding mission about useful learning is engagement with society. Strathclyde, we have our international mission, and we're very proud of that, but we never forget that we're a university in Glasgow. This is our physical root, it's where our history is based, and we're very proud of that. And the social mission about making sure that young men and women get access to university regardless of their economic conditions or the social environment is something that's fundamentally important to me. It's something that's broadly captured under the term widening access. Again, I give you the historical reference back to 1796. John Anderson used to run night classes for drunk, disabled, those things, artisans, who would come to night classes to learn the basics of maths and sciences. And he was a bit of a pioneer, and take this in the spirit that he intended, he even allowed women into these classes. Now that was right and proper, but for society back then, in the 18th century, it was quite an innovation. And we take that inspiration and we drive forward our social mission to make sure that we support improved access, further enhanced experience for those from difficult backgrounds. Strathclyde is what's referred to as one of the research-intensive universities, of which there are 8 in the Scottish university system. And Strathclyde has the best widening access statistics, with about 10.4% of our students that we admitted last year coming from what's categorised as MD20 categorisation. That's where the lowest 20% of those that came from areas of multiple deprivation. And we're not relaxed around that number. We're going to seek to grow that number. I want us to make sure that we continue leading that approach, and I know I share that mission with my fellow principals and other institutions. It's right and proper. It shouldn't be, as you read some of the papers, not something we've just discovered. It's not something that universities need to be driven towards. In a place such as Strathclyde, that's fundamentally important. My own experience, I was an undergraduate here. I was the first one in my family to go to university. It wasn't quite a toss of the coin, but when I finished my O-levels and gone to higher, my option was to go into the shipyards and follow my two brothers to get a trade, as it was called. But because I had the educational background, my parents were very keen that I came here, as it happens. Strathclyde's had that reputation ever since it was established. And I wouldn't have been able to come here without appropriate government support, which is another issue around public sector funding, or I wouldn't have had that successful experience had the Strathclyde staff and mission and teaching programmes not been set up for someone from my background to get to an end of getting that degree and then moving on to a career. And I want you to have that same experience. Malcolm and I think, share a very common mission point around widening access. I was absolutely delighted and proud on your behalf of the launch of the Strathguides programme. And I'm not going to say too much about that because I'm going to steal Malcolm's thunder with this notion of our students volunteering to individually mentor kids from these areas of multiple deprivation. But I don't quite like that term. Places where I was brought up, and I never felt multiply deprived. I felt quite valued actually, and I felt the experience I had was good. But this idea of helping young men and women find their pathways into university is very important. And there's a very exciting opportunity that the university, along with the Students' Association, is looking at now to become the principal partner of an entity called Children's University, which is very exciting. I would commend you to do a wee bit of Googling around children's universities, and expecting at the end of this year, start of next, you'll see an announcement around Children's University's relationship with Strathclyde. And when I say Strathclyde, I mean that in the round. It's my staff and it's the students working together to try and serve this mission. So the widening access piece is good. It's good for the students that take advantage of that, and quite frankly, it's good for our student population to be international and to be integrated across a whole range of socio-economic experiences. And we're hoping in the near future, you and I, Malcolm, to jointly sign a declaration of my commitment on behalf of the university to making sure that we build on that widening access interest. I'd like to do that when? Hopefully by the 5th of November. Okay. One party, I'll look forward to that. Okay guys, as you probably gather, I could talk to the cows come home, but I've only taken half an hour of your time. And let's pause now for half an hour for general exchange, and I'm happy to take Q&A. I'll do my level best to answer you. If there's some other questions, help me. If we don't have the answer, then we'll go away and think about it, and then we'll come back to you hopefully with a good response. Right, over to you. Yes, please.
When you say...
Have you let me know what level you're at, what course you're doing? That's
Sorry, I'm a fourth year architecture student. When you say that the Chem Eng department was in James Weir, am I right in saying there might have been some labs involved in the building at the time?
Yes.
Has the university considered the fact, or considered anything with regards to the fact that there were chemicals being involved, possibly within the fire that the students were on campus at the time, and any, up and coming effects that might succumb?
Sure. No, absolutely. So there was a thorough investigation. Well, at around the time of the fire, and immediately in the aftermath of the fire, the authorities, not least of which the fire services, the police services, and I want to say forensic services. Is that right? What are they called?
Yeah, forensic services.
So actually came into the building to do a thorough examination. You should also be aware that these labs, a lot of these labs run 24/7 at times, and they adhere very strictly to health and safety regulations. So there's nothing being done in these labs that's not being supervised. That doesn't have some auditable process of, chemicals that are noted. We know what these chemicals are. We know how they're being used, how they're being stored, and the people that use them are authorised, have to go through training programs, need some certification to make sure that they are capable of and have the skills to use it. So this is a feature of any large institution, be it a university or it could be a company, where you use high power machinery, chemicals, electricity. There's a whole series of background legislation that covers whether or not you can run effectively, whether you're granted permission by the authorities to run effectively. Where the labs were so dramatically destroyed, there was no specific conclusion on the direct cause of fire, but it was in and around laboratories where chemicals were involved. At the time, It was one of the issues. The fire services were unable, not unwilling, but unable to go in there until they had a very clear understanding of what chemicals they were able to experience. But as a consequence, there's ongoing environmental and safety testing, and as we repopulate that building, being no doubt that the health and safety and well-being of our staff and students is of paramount importance, and we wouldn't be going anywhere into a situation that posed any danger for our Strathclyders.
And maybe I think I did put myself across, but you know, with the fire being in a lab, and obviously these chemicals were burning, being put into the local atmosphere.
Sure.
And there was obviously students working. I mean, I was in my department.
Sure.
You know, is there any future considerations as to having breathed in there on the night while walking around campus?
Hugh, you mind? I want to get the ball. The reason I'm going to point out to Hugh subsequently chaired the emergency management committee that managed it. So there's absolutely no evidence or any assertion that we've had that there was any harmful chemicals ejected into the atmosphere. It's a terrible legitimate question, so I'm not pushing it back. But these things are always taken into consideration in the operations and the risk management of any consequences. Sure.
If I understood you correctly, what you're saying is that there's maybe some issues around whether you suffered personally as a consequence of being in the vicinity on that evening. And I think if there are any students or staff who still feel that they would like some post-fire follow-up and review and assessment, then I think I'd be happy to talk to you about that if you've got any residual concerns. But as the principal says, you know, we do have a very extensive health and safety regime in this university. We're a very complex business as far as health and safety is concerned. I chair the health and safety committee for the university. We'll get cross-faculty attendance at that. We also have the student attendance at that. And if anyone's got any concerns about health and safety, however daft they might seem to them, then they should certainly raise them, you know, with colleagues in the Students' Association or members of staff. And the thing I always say to people is that health and safety, well, we've got committees that deal with it, and individual health and safety representatives. Health and safety is everybody's business. And if you see something that makes you feel in any way uncomfortable, the best thing you can do is actually deal with it yourself or raise it with a member of staff or with the Students' Association.
But I take the point very seriously.
If you want to contact me outside this meeting, we can have a chat about that.
Okay, I saw another hand that was good. Yes, I've got a few. I'll sweep around this way. I'll start with Starkey.
Hi, I'm a business school student, master's student. My question is a bit generalistic. Like, I've been following the rankings of the business school for the couple of years, and I'm a bit concerned. Like, the Strathclyde MBA has fallen out of the Financial Times top 100 ranking, but it has come back this year in the economics ranking. Yes. And my course, it's fluctuating. Like it was on an average for the last 3 years, it was in the top 25. Now it is in the 32nd, I guess, in the Financial Times. Sure. So, as a part of the student congress, what we can do to put it up in the top, back into the rankings? Like, I believe it is more important, especially to a student who is coming next year. Like, it was very useful for me. I know Strathclyde was very good, but still the rankings did a lot of good, and I believe the employers also will be looking to it, to the rankings, especially may not be the MBA, but to my course, which is MBA. So, I think we need to do something about that, because sure, it's fluctuating a bit.
Sure, and be no doubt that we take seriously our ability to influence. Now remember, we it's not us that determine our position in that ranking.
Yes, yes.
And respectful of all the league table compilers, some of them are not always consistent from year to year in terms of how they measure, but we need to respect them.
But in general, I believe the public looks up to it.
Of course, they're important. I mean, I was speaking to the Dean of the Business School only yesterday. In fact, you're right, I think in The Economist we'll move up to about 54th in the world. 54, right. So that's a good number.
Yeah,
given the many thousands of business schools there are around, literally thousands around the world. So we'll move up to 54, and I think we'll move up to 4th in the table for MBA programs.
Yes.
Only behind, I think, NCI, London School of Economics. So fourth isn't bad in the world either. But you're right. What can students do? I think that's a very important question.
I believe we have elected representative of all the students' classes. So
sure. So responding, testimony is very good. Also, this continual improvement argument, when you're in a programme, if you see things, just as you've heard from Dina and myself and other staff, if there are things that we should be improving by way of your experience, be that opportunities for internships, be it particular aspects of the programme or a new part of an MBA that we should think about. I think you're certain enough to tell us that, but that's what I would like everyone to take seriously, is your opportunity to influence and shape the quality not only for yourself, but remember, sometimes if you're in a programme, you won't necessarily get the benefit of your observation, but what it will do is create value and opportunity and improvements for those that will follow you. The other aspect of some of these league tables is that they're not entirely, but increasingly becoming opinion-based. And that means that we have to communicate. This university, we're not communicating our value as effectively as we should. So we're currently reviewing, and it's actually Susan Hart, no coincidence, of the business school that's leading it for us, in our internationalisation strategy, how we promote and, quite frankly, market and position our offering on an international scene. So it's a very important point you make. What can students do? Well, when you're in the programme, do your level best through the advocacy programme you have in terms of the student reps to improve things as you stand, but also to recognise that once you leave here is to do that ongoing positive advocacy, because once you graduate, you're a Strathclyder, you're one of our 170,000 alumni worldwide, and we value you, and how you present yourself, conduct yourself and communicate reflects back on your alma mater. So all of that is extremely important, but no doubt we keep our eyes firmly on the league tables, but you'll also respect that we're not driven by the league tables. What we need to do is to make sure that we give you the best experience, that we pursue our strategy in our unstinting way, and if we do those things that we believe are right for this university, our natural expectation is we'll get an uplift in the league tables, as we have done in the QS World Rankings, as we have done in the Sunday Times rankings this year, and I'm ambitious that we'll improve our standing right across the board, but I can't guarantee that, but we'll try our level best, and you are part of that scene as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jen, can I just add something
Yes,
to that, particularly on the NBA rankings? Jim said some of these league tables don't always reflect what's important to us as an institution. And a lot of the NBA rankings actually take a very large account of salaries when students go out of the institution. And we wouldn't want to be the sort of institution that just feeds students into the financial sector, where the salaries are, as we all know, enormous. Not that we're envious or anything, but we pride ourselves on being an institution where we produce graduates who contribute to society in many different ways, some of whom will not earn large salaries when they go out here, but will still have enormous impact. So you need to take those kinds of things into account as well.
As you know, the business school has triple accreditation for the programme.
I didn't look at the rankings personally while coming. I knew Strathclyde was one of the top rated, and I came for this course. I mean, out of this course, I'll take what I want when I graduate, but that's not what the university should be able to be alerted in that.
Thank you. That's a good question. Thank you for that. I'll sweep along here.
Yeah. I'm a fourth year speech and language therapy student from Haas, and I think we were one of the last faculty to have the handouts taken away from us, in that our lecturers don't print off our handouts now. I'm not sure about the other faculties, maybe that happened earlier with other faculties, but I'm just wondering to what degree that's a consensus-based decision, or is that something we have no power over whatsoever?
In broad terms, well, no power. There'll always be an opportunity for you to influence locally. But remember, we have policies that we try to introduce, and if we're trying to introduce policies, they'll not be for their own sake. They'll be on a value basis. We think what is going to enhance the education and learning experience, and it'll also be, quite frankly, an ability for us to provide something that we can support financially. But let me just turn to Professor Kenny Miller for more. Kenny also looks after the learning and teaching strategy for the university. Kenny, do you get any specific details on that one?
I mean, clearly we're trying to reflect what's happening in terms of modern technology, and I think the message we've been getting from our students is that they like to be communicated, they like to get things in electronic formats that they can work with. So, I mean, clearly what we want to do, as the principal was saying, is provide an environment which is the best for our students. if there are particular issues and there are particular people that require material to continue to be treated out, then that's something we would listen to and hopefully be able to provide. But I mean, I think we're responding to the modern world, where I think the need that we're finding from students is electronics, what we're looking for, web-based material is good.
Well, from our lectures, we're still required to, I don't know, we might read maybe 6 journals in a week, and if anybody's ever read 6 or 10 journals in a week, you'll know that it's very, very difficult to look at a computer screen constantly to read that amount of material.
Yeah.
And also we're required to bring papers to lectures. By all of our lectures, we're required to bring sheets of paper. So what the university's done is shifted the cost directly from themselves to the students in this matter. I'm wondering, for people like myself who find it difficult to pay for that volume of paper to be printed.
I mean, clearly I think we would want to see, and I'm not, you know, to say it's a university policy, I mean, I think it's something that's been developed across the university in different faculties and in different departments, but we'd expect it to be applied flexibly and appropriately. I mean, I can't deal with
Right, so let me keep moving. So let us take that away from here. You're as well. Let me ask you an obvious question. Have you raised this locally?
Yes.
And what was the response?
Somehow one lecturer, specific to our course, has managed to still print off handouts, while other lecturers have said, no, this is the policy, we can't print off handouts, you'll have to print them all yourself.
Right. So you've had your effect in one part of the department?
Yeah.
So
I mean, it seems to me an issue for the staff student liaison committee in that particular department.
so I would get it there. If there's
so my question to you was, will we affect any change if we bring it up, or is it something that will not?
No, so what you're hearing from what I've said at the front, the staff student committees in the schools and the departments, that's the machinery for you guys that have changed. Fora like this and meetings and student representation we have in our various committees. I've already mentioned Malcolm and I meeting, but Malcolm and Rebecca and others attend Senate, go to court, they're involved in all their committees. So students do affect change. In these specific issues, where it's right down to the operational front line, there are overarching policies. But as Kenny was saying, there's a bandwidth there of flexibility, and we're not going to dot the I's and cross the T's right down to a particular school. We're going to have to leave a degree of discretion at that level. If you feel you're not getting the response, you've got the University of Strathclyde Students Association to give you an amplification of that voice, and I'd be suggesting that you do that if you feel that you're not getting any satisfaction. I'm going to come right back to building
just
that.
adding on that, not everything is electronic, because the politics department, we have to print our deadline assignment and then go to and hand it in. Not everything is electronic, and I think the printing have affected the forte, because we got used to, like, they give us the main booklet out, and now we have to print every single thing, and it costs me actually a day. I use £3 to go and print, because we do have a lot of reading to do, and you just can't do it on electronic. It just hurts your eye. You can't stay on the computer that long.
So what I'm going to say, and I'm not going to dodge it, so if you're dealing with it locally, I commend that, continue to do it. If there's something you feel you're up against a brick wall, I would suggest that you go through Malcolm or Rebecca to escalate this to the Education Strategy Committee. Rebecca?
What I would just say is, if you go onto the Strathclyde Facebook page, Strathclyde Rep Facebook page that I've got, I'll put up a question about this and formulate answers and whatnot, and I can take it towards the relevant committee and we can try to get something sorted.
Okay, please.
Jerry McDonald, I'm a third year class rep for both history and politics, and I'm the co-convener of the Mature Students Association, which I call the MSA. So I want to make a couple of comments about that and maybe get something from yourself. We're still based in St. Paul's in the chaplaincy, you know, providing our aims over there to provide a support network of friends and fellow students, somewhere to relax and study, bring in place. A lot of good work has gone on this calendar year, and we're reaping the benefits both internally and externally. Internally, this academic year, our foot traffic has increased by maybe between 300% and 400%. A couple of hundred students a day using the facility. Externally, we've had elected MSA people from Edinburgh University opened us a couple of weeks ago, heard about us, wanted to see what we're doing, talk, bring it back to Edinburgh, brilliant. Next week a couple of us are going to New Battle College in Strathclyde, resident adult learners. They want us to address them. We're going to bring them back here with us subsequently for a tour of the MSA and the whole campus. Not just to encourage their West Scotland and Glasgow residents, but all of them to come to Strathclyde next year. So that's the sort of work that we're doing there. The problem, we're coming up again, we've had a lot of meetings with the different support networks on the campus, and you know, we're identifying a lot of issues and problems from mature students. Our problem with it all is, to borrow a phrase from the good lady over there, we want to speed the process up because we're finding a lot of bureaucratic red tape which is just slowing everything down. I would like to invite you down to the MSA someday. I can't promise you any Irish coffee because we don't have any alcohol, but you can get Irish tea. As well as that, I can promise you, if you engage with the students there, they will give testament to the fact that if it wasn't for our MSA, that the second and third year and fourth year students will tell you this, that if it wasn't for that they wouldn't presently be students on the campus because we're into retention. And what we've done is we've gone out physically in the last academic year. We realised people went missing. We had to go to their homes, got them back. And you know, it's easy for me to say that, but advisors that study academics on this campus can verify what I'm saying. We've done it. We want to enhance the student experience for everybody. So basically, what we're proposing, it's not good. I can sit here all day and complain and moan and list the examples. We need solutions. And one solution through this student association and our forum that we're doing is we're proposing a mature student championing set up on this campus, like a committee with all the different support networks represented, including ourselves.
So, sold.
I know.
I'll come and visit you. I'm not going to guarantee any outputs until I got into the detail, but I'll come and sit down and talk to you.
Much appreciated.
Okay, Vina, will you connect and make that happen? Okay,
Thank you.
Right, I'm going to go to this lady, then I'm going to come to the front. I've got 10 minutes left, so I'm going to have to ration some of this, please.
I have a couple of questions regarding PSW. Is there any significant impact due to the recent changes with PSW visas with respect to international students regarding the admissions?
Okay, that's a very specific
That's
point.
very specific for me. Can we talk afterwards and I'll find out what the issue is and we can deal with it. Have you been to the support staff yet?
Sorry?
Have you been to the advice team?
No. And my second question is, as an international university, what is the stand of Strathclyde regarding this issue? Because through the newspapers we could see that many industrialists, especially many people who are doing business, many British Asians and so many people, they have raised an issue like this might affect the people from all over the world to come to British and pursue their career here. So they had raised oppositions on this and they are requesting the government to bring back the PSW. What is the stand of Strathclyde on this, and are you trying to advise the government on this?
The answer is yes. We're well aware that there are terrible restrictions now on post-import visas as a result of the UKBA's policy decision, which is implementing a government decision. So there is continual lobbying going on behind the scenes on behalf of all of the universities at the national level to address this. But we can also talk to you about a new scheme for entrepreneurs that we have tapped into through the UKBA. So we have 20 places for graduates who are doing entrepreneurial work.
So let me get a little bit of input from one of my other colleagues. So Strathclyde will continue to lobby. So I've raised this issue directly with Mr. Michael Moore, who's the Scottish Secretary. So he's in the Westminster government, he's the Secretary of State for Scotland. But Strathclyde sits inside an organisation called University Scotland, which is the voices of all the Scottish university principals, and that gives us additional weight to lobby, sometimes using the Scottish government to help make the argument to Westminster, where most of those central powers lie. But we have another colleague here called Simon Jennings, who was in University Scotland up until a couple of months ago, but is now working with us. Simon, a broad picture in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think the concerns that you're voicing about post-study workers are things that all the principals at Scottish universities should exactly share your concerns. I think the principals talked about the importance of having an international community of the university and what that brings, both the international students coming to somewhere new, but also for Scottish and UK students studying here, and that's something everybody wants to maintain. So the principals are lobbying both Michael Moore and Westminster. They're also working together to try and get, to see whether there's scope to do something specific in Scotland. That was done previously. It's something the principals would like to revive, so they're talking to Mike Russell, to the First Minister, about this as well. But the challenge is something that's, it's a very real challenge. So Australia, Canada, Germany, they've all moved in the other direction, so they've created greater opportunities for post-study work, whilst the UK is going in the other direction. So there's a big argument about the global economy at a very high level. I think in terms of what students can do, there was a petition, which you may be aware of last year, that a lot of students got involved in. It was the most recent consultation that the UK government's ever run, and I would encourage anybody here who values either is an international student or can see the value that there is in having an international community to get involved in any such campaigning, because I'm sure that's bound to continue.
Okay, so we're going to do the so no doubt we see the value as an institution of having that PSW experience opportunity, and I can tell you more about the other political opportunities that Scotland's looked at, where we had the Fresh Talent Initiative a number of years ago, where Scotland initiated and innovated around this. So it would be great for us to bring something like that back, and we recognise it. So what we try to use the formal channels as well as the informal lobby to try and make sure our voices are heard. Now I'm going to take a question here, and maybe a couple from this point. Do you have a question?
It's everybody.
Okay, right.
A very quick one. I'm an MSc Electronics and Electrical Engineering student, and we are actually studying together with the fourth year undergraduate students, like the MSc students studying with the fourth year undergraduate students. So my question is that a university policy, or is that the academic way you guys go for it, for combining the fourth year students with MSc students?
Not always. Kenny, this is fifth year, effectively fifth year, MSc, instructional master's students sharing some level 4.
All classes.
All fourth year classes with students. This is the Triple E department.
MSc Triple E.
Right.
I mean, I think that the policy, if anything, is to try and ensure we're practical that MSc students and undergraduate students are taught separately. I think there might be occasions where it's appropriate for it to be done together, particularly if the level is similar. And clearly there may be times when that's appropriate in terms of the resources that are available within the department. But I think that from a university perspective, our starting point is we would expect students to work with their cohorts in their particular programs. Although there might be some value, and I can see some great value in some interactions, since I'm sure in terms of the undergraduate programs that's based on home-based students, whereas it may be the case that the MSc is primarily international students. So I can see the value there. So it would be it's difficult again to comment in any particular instance, but certainly from a university policy perspective, I think we would expect there to be classes that yes there might be some crossover, but the programs would be recognised as distinctive.
I used to be the head of the department in electronic and electrical engineering, but that's some time ago. If there are some specific, what's the word I want to use, issues you have with this ACME, with my endorsement, please go and see the head of the department, Professor Stephen MacArthur, and tell him you've raised it with me. I'm interested, and you're interested in having a discussion with him.
Okay, alright. That's precisely another one, and I'll take 36 minutes because that relates to you. That relates to you. I just heard about the teachers' excellence about CEC. I'd like to comment upon it. Now, 3 awards for 2,500 staff members, and that's way too less, I suppose. So, and the recommendation would be to go a little more beyond it, so that the teachers who are doing some good work should be more acknowledged. From departmental to faculty to university policy, there will be more better.
Sure. Well, this is a student-led initiative for the university's full support. I mean, I welcome that. And if we want to roll this out further, then it will get my support. So tell me how to do it. And I'm sure Rebecca will in the coming weeks and months. So I'd welcome that. I'm going to go to Elvira, to Malcolm, and then a couple of questions here before I close, because I'm already late for a meeting. Elvira.
Alright, so I'm a third year psychology rep, and I'm the first generation, but I'm the first class that's not allowed to go abroad. so we're not allowed to go on exchange. And I know this is not just my department, it's also the pharmacy department. We're not allowed to go abroad due to regulation with my department, it's with the BPS.
Yes.
And so instead they're introducing this work placement during the summer, which I think it's a great initiative. But what can the university do, or what is the university doing to improve international experiences within these departments? Because obviously we take on international students. There are international students in my class, but I'm not able to go anywhere. And I mean, I'm already fairly international in Swedish, but I feel like people.
So again, you're going to have to forgive me, I'm going to have to state general. I don't know the specifics. I mean, Lisa Wilson I know very well because she leads the psychology activity. What we're trying to do, well, in the internationalisation strategy that I mentioned, we have an ambition. It'd be great to say all students, but let me not be skittish about it. We want to increase the number of international opportunities we give to all of our students. Now, there are some parts of the university where it's very active. Some parts of the university where it's always built into the programme. Psychology and pharmacy, because of that external accreditation for professional practice purposes, there are some direct constraints that have to be put on the teaching periods. That should not, in my opinion, exclude the opportunity for internships. You've talked about that. In fact, I speak about engineering because I set many of the programmes. So around 60% of students in the engineering faculty are involved in internships, scholarship, sponsorship, or in some other way in direct engagement with industry. Many of them also go overseas for a semester to Singapore, to China, some to North America. So our direction of travel is to make sure, as an international university, I was saying, we welcome international students in, but as I was saying, the outflow of students to get an international experience in the context of a degree is also important. To the specifics of the psychology one, let me take that away and think about it. But what we are trying to build, and we're trying to get external funding for this, and some philanthropic donation as well as institutional funding, is to try and increase the number of placements we have with international academic partners overseas. So that's just now we're actually building a programme with very meaningful high quality research links within which the undergraduate connection is also being built. I mean, as a small example, in the VIP projects, we've actually got students at Georgia Tech just now who are engaged in some of these projects in the States, but I can't do much about your accrediting bodies requiring for you to do something specific, but we are taking seriously the opportunity to expand these overseas links for our students, but it will take time, but it's on the agenda. Mark?
So, President of the Students' Association, 4-year law and then postgraduate law as well. You mentioned earlier about the 650 postgraduate PGTEs, postgraduate education students in Cineworld. The feedback we've received has been very positive. I myself have spoken there, and I thought the facilities were fantastic. Their audio-visual is brilliant. However, earlier you hinted at housing these students elsewhere. Could you shed some light? Will this be on campus?
Yeah, only this morning I met with the head of the education school, Mr. Donald Christie, and the head of the faculty of humanities and sciences, Tony McGrew. So we don't have a pre-wrapped solution yet, Malcolm, but what it might mean is a revised approach to pedagogy. So there might be different ways of delivering these programs that doesn't require 600 students in the same space at the same time. So, like all good problem solving, it's very good to invert the problem. If you start off saying, de facto, we need 600 students in the space at the same time, you've got a limited solution space. But if you say, how else can we deliver that experience, that opportunity, that particular program, it will lead to innovation, I am sure. But we will all, if the answer back from the educators in that part of the university is, we do need 600 students in that space at the same time, then we're going to be bound to try and take advantage of space outside the campus just now. But there are other spaces that are being invested, for example, in the Big Dig, that host many hundreds of students. So it's going to be down to academic staff challenging themselves about doing things in a revised way. We've talked about educational technology, IT, new ways of delivering materials. We need, as educators, we need to challenge ourselves do we need to do it this way? Maybe not.
Coming back at this one. I guess I ask because I'm conscious of the job market, and I was wondering if we were going to see the numbers of postgraduate education students fluctuating over the next few years. I guess the demand for high school teachers.
Yeah, this Malcolm making reference to the fact that the number of students we admit is regulated, as it were, by Scottish Government setting that against the national requirement. So I can't guarantee what the numbers are going to look like, Malcolm, and we will be at the disposal of the Education Department of Scottish Government. But if you look at the demographics in the education system in Scotland, then there's quite a distribution of those more mature teachers that will retire, that will leave the profession, and that would suggest to me that we're going to maintain the same level of staff-student ratios, the same level of engagement. Then at the moment I'm reasonably confident that these numbers will will be retained. And there was a report called Donaldson Report about 2 years ago, which talked about new innovative ways of formulating the experience and producing teachers from the initial teacher education programmes, and that for me positively looked into the future of the requirement for producing high quality teachers such as we do at Strathclyde. And that technological university piece, it means the sorts of experience where we give those that are doing education-based degrees, but couple them with associated subjects, really enriches the education experience for these people. It makes them eminently more employable as teachers because it gives them a broader spectrum of appreciation. And if they don't enter the teaching profession, they've got other strings on their bows in terms of taking that degree, which has maybe been broadened and going into other parts of the public or private sectors. Ken, do you want to add anything to that?
Not really, except to say in the same way with the international students, University of Scotland has been lobbying the Scottish Government in particular to bring in some sort of consistency in terms of numbers, because fluctuations up and down certainly don't work for the students, but I can assure you don't work for the university either. And I think we would like to see that broader position. And I think Jim's right, the demographics are such that the likelihood is that if anything the numbers might go up a little bit rather than, as in the past, dramatic downturns.
Okay, I promised a couple of questions at this end before we depart, please.
I'm a first year from the business school, and I don't know if you've ever experienced it recently from a personal point of view with sons or daughters, but the SAS process is one of the most complicated things I've been through in a while. And I was just wondering, when you mentioned about the support classes for international students and like the visa, would you ever be willing to do something similar with SAS?
I think that's really interesting. That's usually a euphemism for no really doing about it. That is really interesting. What can we do about it?
Yeah, I think we could do a lot on that, because that's it's very useful feedback to get that.
Yeah.
Because SAS believes they've done an awful lot to streamline the process and moves online. So we could do some work and maybe engage with them. We can go and visit them. We can get them to come and talk to us.
Yeah.
So very happy to hear about that. Do tell us.
I mean, there was a lot of support in my personal case. There was a lot of support documents I had sent in, and I came across. I'd been on a waiting queue on the phone for excellent hours, and got to the end of it, asked what I needed, and then I got off the phone. I didn't realise the address. Their address isn't on their website for you to post things in, like simple things like that. They're not really good for it.
Okay,
So
feed that in.
can we keep that conversation and let's see what we can do. That sounds very much observation. Thank you for that. Final question? If there's no takers from here, there's a very last two questions.
I'd like to add to something about the PSW thing. I'm a 50 M in naval architecture. What I've observed is that most of the MSc students who graduated this year, all of them are talented and they got the jobs. Their visa was sponsored by the company, so as long as you can sell yourself properly, you get a sponsor. For my case, I came in 2009, so I'm quite disappointed that when I came in, I was told you're going to get it, and then suddenly this April I was told, no, you're not eligible anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
Noted. And again, we can, sympathy is not enough, but if there's anything we can do, knowing about this, as we build case studies of experiences like that, it helps us in a perverse way. It's a negative, but it helps us make the case for what this is stopping us doing and the difficulties that brings to the experience of our international students. So, Malcolm, there may be something you can help us here with our international students, where there are more than anecdotes, there's some case studies that we can use as a basis to build up a cache of things that we want to reflect back to the authorities. That would be helpful.
Charity did took it up last year. I know that the email us about it and stuff.
Okay. Malcolm, is that okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you how to give you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Last question for me.
Hi, I'm a fourth year aeromechanical engineering student. It's not really a question, more of an observation. When you said that the departments that were originally in the James Weir building have now been rehomed, understand that DMEM are now in architecture, things like that. Maybe actually the academic staff and support staff seem to have been rehomed, but us as students kind of feel that we don't actually belong anywhere at the moment, whereas like NAME have Henry Dyer and Colville's got for the civil engineers.
So specifically the mechanical and aerospace department?
No, the chemical as well. I know that they're feeling that, and DMEM.
Well, Triple E wasn't affected with the fire.
But our classes are this person.
I mean in a kind of community sense, sorry.
Easy.
And not a lecture disruption or anything like that. I just mean that was where we went. That was kind of like our home as a department, and now we don't feel like we actually have.
Now, I should be able to tell you in detail what the revised James Weir layout looks like. I can't, so I'm not going to make it up. But what I do know that there are provisions being made for greater social space in the James Weir building for both the undergraduate and postgraduate students. I can't give you today, but what I will be saying is that by the start of the next academic year, that building will be open for business again. And is this something you've raised at your staff student
committee?
Yes,
with Professor Rees and Dr. McLaren about things like this.
And those were both the people I was going to point you towards. What was the response?
We are in touch with other departments to kind of, for specific events, for them to kind of let us use their facilities.
Okay.
It's just in a kind of general sense, we're kind of quite scattered.
Well,
still
and that's not good, because you do want a sense of identity. I mean, all I can say is you're speaking to the right people. I mean, Jason and Andrew should be all over that. Should you feel that I need to learn more about this, or if you want me to help them achieve it, although Jason's a very assertive, positive head of department, but if you think I need to know more about that, let me know. I'd probably let me know through Malcolm or Rebecca. That way it means I'll not get lost in the ether. I mean, I see both of them regularly. So if you think I need to be more aware of it and have some kind of intervention, let me know. Don't let me wave my arms at the Triple E point. This is the last point I want to go. What was the observation? I'm sorry.
The thing is, we are MSc students at the Triple E, and we are having classes all over the campus. And when we